It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
Deja. Six the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Friday, and you made it. About damn time. Oh, and the sky's going to be clearing up, too. Hang on. It's working on it.
Today's show is sponsored by the Ugly Pants Store. Each pair makes you want to sit in wet paint.
Yeah, because that would just make them look a whole lot better. I always, whenever I see those young ladies with all the rips in their pants, I just imagine that they survived a bear attack. There, I feel a whole lot better about it. Other than that, I don't know what to think.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
I'm going to start by playing something I played late yesterday, but I thought for Friday, you folks getting up early in the morning ought to enjoy this. Now, past few days in the latest Trump trial, Stormy Daniels, as you know, was brought out to testify. And I did all I could just to avoid it because, like the rest of you, I know she has absolutely nothing to do with this case. Not a thing. There's no point to bring her out. She has nothing to do with what's going on. Yet there she was. And if you tuned into any of the former news channels, they're not news channels anymore, Fox, CNN, MSNBC, that's all they did was go on and on and on about it, as if there was nothing else happening in the world. Oh, now and then they might break away and mention something else going on, but that was the big story of the day, in which case I had a hard time every time I walked by a television that had one of those former news channels on. I literally picked up the pace a little bit just to get away from it. And I certainly wasn't going to tune into any radio yesterday because that's pretty much all they were talking about. All you really need to say is she has nothing to do with this case. Now, then I heard about this. It popped up also on one of my news and opinion feeds that I check every single morning. Let's go to MSNBC. Because MSNBC's got to do all it can to make this sound like it really is something. That Stormy is testifying. And so they got to make her sound good. Now, how do you make Stormy Daniels sound good? She is a porn star. Think about the wreck that her personal life is. All right. So how do you make her sound good? Okay. So MSNBC host describing Stormy Daniels walking into the courtroom.
Well, the excitement and anticipation in the room hit a new high at 10:32 a.m. She entered wearing all black, as if on her way to a funeral. The loose-fitting, plain black clothing draping from her shoulders to her toes suggested the modesty of a nun. The makeup was minimal, the way she and the other moms in her neighborhood might look when shopping at the local grocery store. The long blonde hair held up with a clip at the back of her head, the way it might be in a utilitarian way while she was doing dishes or checking one of the horseshoes on her horse, she later spoke of so proudly. When she walked by him, her face had the same expressionless, somber look that all the jurors always have when they walk by him.
Do you like the part where she was compared to a nun? I'm going to play just a little bit of that again, not the whole thing.
Well, the excitement and anticipation.
Yeah, we were all anticipating
in the
story.
room hit a new high.
Yeah.
At 10:32 a.m. She entered wearing all black, as if on her way to a funeral.
On her way to a funeral, sure.
The loose-fitting, plain black clothing draping from her shoulders to her toes suggested the modesty of a nun.
The modesty of a nun. Okay. That's how bad it got on television yesterday and some of the radio talk shows across the country. And the people who were against Stormy Daniels sounded just as bad, but in the opposite way. It just got to the point of ridiculous where I turned it all off. I honestly did. You know the reason I have that is, again, one of my news and opinion feeds that I read every single morning had that yesterday. And I thought, you have got to be kidding me. I gotta let these people hear this. Because I know those of you listening to me, except for maybe Greg and Laramie and Dave in the San Francisco, no one's watching MSNBC. And thank God. And I would suggest you turn off the rest of it, too, just to save yourself some. Now, this is going to make your weekend. Somebody, and whoever came up with this idea is a genius. Sometimes the best way to defeat people is really just to point out their own hypocrisy or trip them up when they get caught in a contradiction of some kind. This is glorious. So let's take a look. We've been dealing with for a few weeks now these protesters on college campi across the country. And if you listen to what they have to say, they have no idea what they're talking about. None. They're clueless. And yet there they are out there making demands and protesting and so on. All right. And, of course, over half of them are not even college students. They're professional agitators that show up to stuff like this. But remember now, these are extreme leftists, right? And so they're walking around wearing that, and I'm sorry, you'll have to forgive me, I don't know what it's called. What is that cloth that they wear that has that pattern of Hamas and Palestine and so on? Okay. And they're wearing other things that typically you see worn by members of Hamas. Hang on. Isn't that cultural appropriation? Yeah, right. Isn't that? I hadn't thought about that before. Hang on. Then, so if you are ever confronted, this is just beautiful, isn't it? I wish I'd thought of this before. Somebody else thought about it, and I'm jealous. I wish I had come up with it. If you're ever confronted by some protester and they're wearing one of those cloths or have their face wrapped up like, again, a member of Hamas would, they're wearing the colors and so on, they're draping themselves in the flag, accuse them of cultural appropriation and see what kind of reaction you get. Because now they're living in a contradiction. Right. And at the same time, accuse them, because the vast majority of them are young white people from good homes. So accuse them of privilege while you're at it, too. Cultural appropriation and white privilege. Yeah, and then see what kind of reaction you see, because they can't have it both ways, can they? All right. Sometimes and they'll get mad at you. They'll really, because you weren't supposed to notice that. But now that I've mentioned it, you're not going to be able to unsee it. Every time you see these college kids on television, you're going to think, hang on, that's cultural appropriation. And it is. Glorious, isn't it?
You know, if you think about it, your belly button is basically just a scar that you got in a knife fight with a guy in a mask after being evicted from your first place.
Well, that image is going to stick with you all day. Start your day the right way. Wake up, Wyoming, with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join the conversation at 888-97-WOODS.
6:22 is the time. Wake up, Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. All right, 888-97-WOODS is the phone number. That's 888-97. WOODS. People texting me off the Wake Up Wyoming app. Let me, if you're just joining me, this is going to be great. I'm not going to be able to unsee it myself. Just give you a little gift. Next time you're watching television and you see a bunch of pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas protesters on college campus somewhere. And they're wearing those, whatever that cloth is on their head, and wearing the flags too, draping them around their shoulders. Accuse them of cultural appropriation and white privilege, because most all of them are white too. Okay, I.D. John says, but that's not a okay, hang on a second. Oh, okay. You were calling them ragheads and towel heads, right? Okay. Red and Casper, I don't know what you call the cloth. There's a name for that, but I can't remember what it is. Red and Casper says, Glenn, you're doing it wrong. You only yell cultural appropriation when someone uses logic to tear leftists apart. Yeah, that's true. I can't use logic to... No, that's not possible. And only I can be guilty and you can be guilty of cultural appropriation, but those people on the left, they can't be. Because you're not supposed to call out their hypocrisy. If you call out their hypocrisy, you are a bad person. That makes me a bad person. Because I noticed something they were doing hypocritical and I named it. I'm not allowed to do that. They're allowed to do that to us, but we can't do that to them, obviously, right? Okay. Now, here's one, I do appreciate this story. I was talking about this for the whole time these protests have been going on. And I wonder, did Cowboy State Daily, someone over there, maybe Claire, is that you, someone else, hear what I was saying and then decide to go ahead and look at it and do a story about this? Because I like this. I've been saying for a while that the protests have been happening at universities across America. But if you go to trade schools, nobody's protesting. They're busy. Yeah, getting a skill so they can have a life. Cowboy State Daily headline. Trade school in Wyoming don't have pro-Palestinian protests. See? That's what I'm talking about. It says college students around the United States and other nations have been protesting on university campi, sometimes violently, as the spring semester draws to a close, to support Palestinian and Gaza-Israel, in the Gaza-Israel war, and support Hamas. University of Wyoming saw a peaceful Gaza-related protest involving about 40 people last week, and I did pay them a compliment if they wanted to say something. So for those who came out in support of Palestine and Hamas, I disagree with you, but at least they did it peacefully. They showed up with their signs, they made their statements, it was a peaceful protest. And I'm perfectly okay with that, even if I disagree with them. But that's about it for campus activity, the story says, reacting to the Middle East war. At least 3 trade schools in Wyoming. The idea of their students tenting out and protesting for hours or days is not only unheard of, it seems a little bizarre to those students. Quote, there has not been a mention of a protest in any of our 30 campuses across the United States, says Mike Smith, director of Sage Truck Driving School in Cheyenne. Think about it. They're going to truck driving school, and what are they talking about? Truck driving. Most of the school's students are the same age as traditional college students, but they have a different life setup. They don't live together on campus. They come to campus for training alone. They don't spend a lot of time on campus because a lot of their training is out in the field, learning by doing. Quote, these are conservative folks. They are blue collar. They're trying to take care of their families. They've come to better themselves, not make political statements. And this is where, again, at the universities, some of these people are paying, like $30,000, $50,000 or more $1,000 a year. To do what? To get indoctrinated at these universities. You don't get in front of all of these semis and kids that are, basically all the kids there are learning the skill. But in public spaces, newbie truckers aren't driving about with, let's say, protest signs on their trucks. At Wyoming Electrical in Casper, in the House Schooling and Training Center, students go out to do their job, on-the-job training. This is what I mean by they'll show up in class, and they'll go ahead and learn something, but then they go out into the field to learn by doing. I mean, actual jobs. And by the way, I'm looking at a picture here. This is a welding class, and it's in Casper. And let me see. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people there. And out of the 8 people, 1, 2, 3, 4, wow, 6 out of the 8 people are girls. That's cool. Okay. Plumbers, pipe fitters, same thing. So Cowboy State Daily went to all the different trade schools and looked at all the different kinds of classes. And none of them have even thought about protesting anything. And the reason why is they're busy getting a skill so later in life they can pay their damn bills. And it's an important skill that this country, not only do they need, but this country needs. As opposed to what these college kids who think they know it all are doing. You know, those guilty of cultural appropriation? Yeah, I'm just going to have so much fun with that. Coming up on 6:30, local news coming away after local news update on your weather forecast, and you and I get back into it again. Phones are open, by the way, 888-97-WOODS. That's 888-97 WOODS. Wake Up Wyoming.
Honestly, he's just happy to be here. Catch Glenn Woods on Wake Up Wyoming, weekdays at 6 on air, on Alexa, and on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
6:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. So your senators here in Wyoming, Lummis and Barrasso, are sponsoring a bill to save AM radio, which they say is vital for rural states. So, again, I'm reading from a Cowboy State Daily article, but it says AM radio stations are often some of the only signals that reach Wyoming's most rural areas. Now, that's because AM goes with the curvature of the earth. FM is line of sight. So as the earth curves, sorry, flat earthers, as the earth curves, the FM signal just goes and then fades out, you know. But with the AM signal, it will go with the curvature of the earth. And so you can hear it over a much greater distance, right? U.S. Senator John Barrasso and Cynthia Lummis are doing their best to keep AM radio in the mix. In an exploding world of digital communication, co-sponsored federal legislation that would direct the National Highway Safety Administration to require automakers to keep AM radios in their new vehicles. Now, my answer, and think about it, most talk radio is on AM. For those who say that AM radio is dead, FM took over a long time ago, my answer would be, well, as a guy who's mostly heard on AM radio stations, I can tell you that's never been the case. Talk radio has been since inception one of the hottest formats out there, one of the most listened to, not just, and for those advertisers out there, pay attention to this, it's not just the number of people who listen to talk radio. It's who they are, and they're usually people who are either they're business people, yeah, the politicians and so on too, but also business owners, people who have money, homes. These are people who are the movers and shakers of your community. And in most cases, they're homeowners and car owners and so on. That's who listens to talk radio. But it's also how long they listen to it. Because, well, as you listen to this program yesterday, for example, there's 3 different callers that I got yesterday. I had said something during this first hour of the program. And they called me in the last hour of the program to talk about what I said in the first hour of the program, which means they're listening through the whole thing. That's very typical of talk radio. So it's not just who listens, but how long they listen, their listening habits. This is not background noise. Now, there are some automakers out there, electric car makers are one of them, but we're just going to take AM radio out of that. No one's really listening to AM radio, whatever their excuse may be. For some of the electric cars is, well, we worried that it might interfere with some of the electronics and et cetera, et cetera. Now, this, as much as I appreciate the gesture of my Wyoming senators, And we'll make sure to thank them in person for that. I really do appreciate the gesture. But also you realize I'm a free market guy. All right, so as a free market guy, let the automakers do what they do. If they want to take AM radio out, that's their mistake. Because that's something that will bite them. I mean, if somebody goes to buy a car, they should ask the question, what do you got for radio these days? What's in there? Now, it also doesn't matter in this sense. Quite a few of my listeners, it's really catching up, are actually listening off of their phones. You know, people used to carry around little transistor radios and so on. Not so much anymore. Very few people carry little radios in their pockets. Now it's on their cell phone. So not only can you listen to this program off of the Wake Up Wyoming app or the app for your local radio stations, but a lot of people, this program becomes a podcast later, and they just go back and listen later. You go to your Wake Up Wyoming app, you touch On Demand, touch Wake Up Wyoming, select the episode. And the show is condensed, so it's not a 4-hour program. We take out news, sports, and weather, so you can get to the meat of the program every single day. And a lot of people, while they're driving down the road, long distances, or stuck in traffic, will just go ahead and call up the Wake Up Wyoming app. And if the show's already over, they'll just select the podcast. If it's playing live, then they'll just play it off of their phone. So programs like this don't go away, but I'm still in favor of let the market decide these things. If automakers actually do start taking AM radio out, people will either not buy those cars or buy the car but put it back in, which they can always do. All right, so, quote, we want to make sure people, especially in rural areas, have access to AM radio in new vehicles without having to pay a fee or upfront charge for that, they said. The AM Radio for Everyday Vehicle Act would direct the Highway and Safety Board to require automakers to maintain AM broadcast radio in their vehicles without a separate or additional payment or surcharge, require any automaker that sells vehicles without access to AM broadcast radio before an effective date to clearly disclose that to the customers. In other words, by the way, this doesn't have AM radio in it. And direct Government Accountability Office to study whether alternative communication systems could fully replicate and be as effective as AM radio is. So, okay, the bill is sponsored by Senator Ted Cruz, and then it talks about how they would possibly get that passed. So what's causing this? Many car manufacturers have been opting out to not put AM radio in their vehicles, the new electric vehicles, new electric ones, because they worry about how the system might affect all of the computer and so on going on in their EVs. So now, here's where I also don't worry much about it, because this is mainly electric vehicles where they don't want to put AM radio in. And as you know, electric vehicle sales are not doing all that well. Reefer in Carpenter, Wyoming, I had taken my AM radio seriously enough, I made my own AM filter for my radio out here. Wow, that's cool. Red and Casper, there are so many solutions to the AM radio thing. Once again, politicians need to get a hobby so they can get their fingers out of the industry. True. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Make your voice heard at 888-97-WOODS. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
6:49 is the time. Wake Up Wyoming. Off to the icebox we go. Frank Gambino's waiting by. So, Frank, I got some really good answers. I posed a survey to our listeners yesterday. Is it soda or pop or Coke or soda pop or whatever the heck,
it's
right?
Pop.
Yeah, okay. Now, and I found out where pop comes from.
Okay.
Because originally...
It's called soda pop.
Well... Originally, it was soda water, which was a naturally occurring thing, like Perrier is naturally carbonated. Then they started adding flavors and making it artificially, but it was still called soda. Then someone started with those bottles that we're so familiar with, the ones with the metal caps that we had to pop off. Yep. Remember that? And it would make that popping sound because of the pressure in the cap, and that's when people started calling it pop.
Okay.
Okay, so that's where that comes from. So the answers that I get, and people were debating soda and pop and so on, and I'm enjoying these answers until eventually I get to it's whiskey mix.
Whiskey mix?
Sure.
Of course.
And that's not the only person. There's more than one person that said that.
Yeah, you could have
Sure.
Jack and Pop.
Yeah.
But it's more referred to as Jack and Coke.
Jack and Coke, yeah, right. Let me see. Sugar Bomb, battery terminal cleaner.
It's very true, yeah.
That's,
all that white stuff will go right away,
My sister says, I don't want to call it Pop because that's what you call your father. Well, okay.
No, I didn't call my father Pop.
My granddad called it Sody Pop.
Sody Pop, yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one here. Let me see. It's sodas down in Florida here. Okay, yeah, a lot of people use just the brand name, which is what I do. I ask for what I'm asking. If I want a Mountain Dew, I just say Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
Okay. That way I'm being very specific about it. And the last comment that I got, it's called a soft drink in Australia, but kids are picking up what Americans do and calling it soda.
Okay.
It's okay.
The Aussies are catching up.
I still like the whiskey mix.
That's a good one. All right, in men's college basketball, Pete Thamel of ESPN reported yesterday that Wyoming Cowboy head coach Jeff Linder is working on a deal to join Texas Tech as an assistant coach. Linder was the Pokes head coach for the last 4 years, and with the last 2 being utterly forgettable. 15-17 this past season, and 9-22 the season before that. He did get the Cowboys to the NCAA tournament in 2022, but lately it's been a revolving door of players to and from the transfer portal with mixed results. You did get Graham Ike to come to Laramie, and then he left for Gonzaga, but attendance and interest in the program has been low, as in very low. Now, Texas Tech's head coach is Grant McCaslin, who worked with Linder at the junior college level in Midland, Texas from 2004 through 2006. So Linder probably wasn't a happy guy in Laramie and figured to have a much better chance to win as an assistant with a Big 12 school. The Red Raiders made the NCAA tournament for 3 of the last 4 years, including last season. High school soccer, the 4A regional tournament started yesterday. The winners of yesterday's matches punched their tickets to next week's state tournament in Rock Springs and Green River. In the 4A West, Natrona defeated Star Valley 3-2 in a shootout, and Kelly Walsh bombarded Riverton 8-0. So those teams are playing now for seeds at the state tournament. NC will play Jackson today, and Kelly Walsh will play Rock Springs. In the 4A West tournament for the girls, Natrona zoomed by Rock Springs 5-0, and Kelly Walsh had a first round bye. So NC plays KW this morning at 10 a.m. And that West regional is in Star Valley and in Jackson. The 4A East regional in Cheyenne. Cheyenne East beat Laramie in overtime 1-0, and Sheridan defeated Cheyenne South 4-2. So today Central, who got the first round bye, will play Cheyenne East at 5 p.m. On the girls' side, Cheyenne East nipped Sheridan 2-1. Cheyenne South lost to Thunder Basin 1-0, and Cheyenne Central lost to Campbell County 4-3. So today Laramie, who got a first round bye, will play Cheyenne East at 3 p.m. In the Stanley Cup playoffs in hockey, the Colorado Avalanche lost to Dallas last night 5-3, and so that second round playoff series is even at a game apiece. The Avs were down 4-0 in that game, but did come up with 3 goals in the third period to kind of make it interesting. And game 3 of that series will be in Denver coming up on Saturday, and that's it in sports.
So it sounds like we're going to have some really nice weather this weekend.
Well, let's hope so.
Yes, we are.
I'll let you know, because I'll be outside all
that means you're going to have a busy weekend.
Yes, we have a regional high school track. We have a regional high school. I'll let you know what the weather is.
And then we'll get back to Don Day, because according to Frank, who was out there and
all day, every day.
Office, okay, so
and it depends on where you are too.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. Yeah, so you know that we've seen this before in Wyoming. They have that rock hung by a cable or a chain, and it tells you what the weather. We just ask Frank from now on. Frank, you're outside. What's going on out there?
Yeah, okay, I can do that.
It sucks.
I can do that.
Okay, coming up on some local business we got to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that national, local update on your weather forecast. Wake up, Wyoming. Six is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. It's a Friday, and I'm glad you made it. And yeah, those clouds are going to be clear now. Don Day is on at 7:45 to talk to us about this weekend's weather and possibly what's coming next week.
Today's show is sponsored by the Ugly Pants Store. Each pair makes you want to sit in wet paint.
Because it would make those pants look a whole lot better than that. All right, 888-97 was the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. All right, I'm just going to play a little bit of this. Not a whole lot. there's a new thing out there, a new trend. I thought it was bad enough some years ago when there was some group therapy for men where guys would sit around in a circle and beat on drums and pass the talking stick and discuss their feelings. And that's not what guys do. The guy who wrote the book, for those old enough to remember, Real Men Don't Eat Quiche, which I always disagreed. I agree with the book, but the title is wrong. Real men eat whatever the hell they want, and they don't care what you think. But then he wrote another book, a follow-up, Real Men Don't Beat on Drums, and he talked about things like that. So there's a new one now. It's for women, Rage Ritual. Okay, ladies, to get out that anxiety, you're supposed to go out in the woods with other women, pick up big sticks and beat them on the ground and scream at the top of your lungs. Here's just a sample of this.
It's raging time. Rage has been demonized and villainized, especially in the feminine. But our sacred rage is what has incited so many movements, created so much change on our planet. It is imperative that we allow ourselves safe spaces to release this fiery, hot emotion from within us so that it can no longer poison or toxify our internal emotional reality.
Boy, was that a bunch of psychobabble. And there's a bunch of women who go out into the woods as a group, and they pick up big sticks and they beat them on the ground and they scream bloody murder until they're so exhausted they can't pick up the stick anymore. If I meet any woman who's interested in that, I know right away that she is toxic and has emotional issues, and I'll steer clear. Okay? It's all right. Doc Holliday's on the phone. Doc, how you been? Maybe he's not there. Hang on a second here. Check that. There's the button is pushed all the way down there. And, okay. I know listening to the same news as him. Okay. Well, I tell you what, Doc, I have all the proper buttons pushed here, and I can't hear you. So if you want to go ahead and try back, I'll go ahead and take your call. But he just wasn't there, Mary. All right, so 888-97, what is the phone number? 888-97-WOODS. UW, University of Wyoming, not likely to scrap DEI program, despite defunding from the legislators, diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is something that I've wanted to be swept out for quite some time because I look at that as a toxic thing. I'll get into that in just a bit. Story from Cowboy State Daily says, the future of the University of Wyoming Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Office looks brighter than it may have been a month ago when the legislators passed a budget prohibiting state money being used to fund it. At Thursday's University of Wyoming Board of Trustees meeting, not a single trustee or UW president himself expressed any support for fully eliminating the office. What the office will look like won't be decided until today when the trustees reconvene. The first thing I would like to do, and by the way, as a result of the biennial budget approved by Governor Mark Gordon, the governor line item vetoed part of it. He didn't want to get rid of all of it because he was afraid of losing some federal funding for a few things. So we'll see what happens there. What I would like to see when they get all done with this is, first off, get rid of the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and then any other programs they have or courses they have, just let them exist if students are willing to pay for them. But okay. Story says the report's DEI recommendations include merit-based pay and hiring and grading, inquiring rather than advocacy in the classroom, academic freedom in teaching and research, and freedom of expression and space in all spaces and voices. And all of that is stuff that really doesn't say anything. The working group established 5 possible options. Continue to fund the office with private money. That could be a thing. Continue to fund the office, but rename it. Just rename the thing, but keep doing it. That doesn't work for me. Recognize the office, change its name, and place it under a different university department. That's, again, doing the same thing. Close the office, fire its employees, thank you, please, and redirect its duties, such as limited English proficiency program and other university departments. Or close the office, fire its employees, and only direct federally required duties for the university's department. We'll see what they come up with. Back to the phones. Augie is in Casper. I think Miss Mary's worried that she has your name wrong. Morning.
Yeah, good morning. Two quick comments. If you need to listen to the local news on 1030 K2.
Okay.
Okay, the CDC is more concerned about bringing dogs in the country with diseases versus the newcomers.
Okay.
So you need to listen to that.
Yeah, okay.
Number two, we have to keep it light. You know what a newcomer is?
Right.
Okay. How many times can a newcomer come in and be exported and still be called a newcomer?
Interesting. Yeah, especially when they've broken the law multiple times. Don't we have laws against repeat offenders?
I think we do, but somebody can't read and enforce them.
Right.
I'll let you go.
Okay.
But,
I
you
do
need to listen to the local news.
I do have the dog story. I just pulled it up, so go ahead and get into that so people know what you're talking about. All right. Thanks.
Okay.
I appreciate it. All right. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. You can talk about what I'm talking about or change the subject. That's just fine by me. We'll do the dog story next.
Is your life boring? Are you too young for a midlife crisis but tired of waiting for something to trigger an existential crisis? Why not try generalized anxiety disorder? Make every day a crisis.
Yep, there you have it. A new level of crazy. And you heard it here. When you need to know, quicker than the morning paper or the 5 o'clock news, you need Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Mornings on K2 Radio.
7:18 is the times. Wake Up Wyoming. Real quick to Red and Casper. Repeat offenders. The first act of illegal immigration due in our country by definition is break our immigration laws. Yeah, it is illegal to enter our country. I mention repeat offenders because we have harsher penalties for people who keep doing the same crime over and over and over again. So we have thrown them out, we've arrested them, we threw them out of the country, and they came back in again. The next penalty should be harsher. And then Ray in Green River, CDC is concerned about reintroducing dog rabies while the newcomers are bringing tuberculosis. Here's the story they're talking about, and this is by Colby, who is our news lady in the Casper radio. Casper radio station we have. CDC is updating dog import regulations to protect the health and safety of people and animals by making sure any dog arriving in the United States is healthy and doesn't present a risk to our communities. So starting August 1st, 2024, all dogs entering the United States must appear healthy upon arrival, be at least 6 months of age, be microchipped, be accompanied by a CDC dog import form online submission receipt. These rules apply whether you are a U.S. citizen or a legal U.S. resident or foreign international. If you don't comply with the CDC rules, your dogs won't be allowed to enter the United States. If denied entry, your dog will be sent back to the last country of departure at your expense. Country of departure is where the last trip originated, not where the dog was born, according to the CDC. Additional requirements are based on where the dog has been over the last 6 months and not whether the dog was vaccinated in the United States. For dog arrivals from countries with high risk of rabies, they must be protected against rabies. So the rabies virus variant caught by a dog was eliminated in the United States in 2007. CDC wants to prevent that from coming back in. Okay, so now when I take a look at this, and the countries and political units are considered high risk for importing dogs with rabies are Afghanistan, Algeria, Angola, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Bangladesh, and it goes on and on. Long list of countries here. Long list. So let me back up just a little bit, because when I look at this, I think, okay, that's what the CDC wants to do with dogs. We are supposed to be doing the same thing with humans. See, let me give you 3 basic reasons when it comes to illegal immigration as to why every country on the planet has immigration laws. It's just that the United States currently is not enforcing those laws. We want to make sure that people come from other countries don't have bad intentions. Because if they're criminal backgrounds, if they have terrorist backgrounds, things like this, then we don't want them in the country. We want honest, law-abiding people. If you're not, stay out. We have enough of our own problems. We don't need more of you. Then, second, want to make sure that you can support yourself. That's like yesterday I told you the story about the illegal immigrants encamped in Denver. And they're starting to make demands on the city. They want unlimited shower time. They want culturally appropriate food. I mean, the list goes on about what they want. And my thought is, hey, you're in this country illegally. You don't get anything. That's what Denver should be doing. We're going to push you out of Colorado. You're here illegally. You don't get squat from us. But, see, Denver made itself a sanctuary city and passed a bunch of laws saying they were going to do these things. That's why those people arrived and started hanging out, because promises were made. It's easy to virtue signal and say you're going to be a sanctuary city. Now you got to do it, and that's where it gets really difficult. And then finally, we have immigration laws because of disease. We've seen this before. If you have a continent that's not used to a certain disease and it shows up, it could be devastating. That has happened many times in world history. So we got to make sure that people showing up are vaccinated or don't have whatever. That's one of the reasons they're checked at the border. Can't let you into the country if you either have certain diseases or are not vaccinated for certain things. So they want to do this for dogs. Anyone arriving, the dog has to be healthy on arrival. Well, what about the people? Again, if they're entering the country with diseases that we already got rid of in this country or have never had. Must be microchipped. I don't think the person has to be microchipped, though. No, that would feed right into the tin hatters thing, but okay. Accompanied by a CDC dog import to online receipt and submission. And then it goes on with all of the other rules. Additional requirements are based on that the dog has been at least 6 months, let me see, vaccine, okay. And then they're going to, if the dog doesn't meet the requirements, they return it back to the last country it was in. And again, why aren't we doing this with the people? Because when we've allowed just open borders, you can see what we're getting. There are people who are on terrorist watch lists who have come into this country. There are people who are running from the law in their country of origin or wherever they left last. That's why they're coming here. They're running from the law. There are people who have no way of supporting themselves, but they're coming to America because they're told that we will support them. And we're giving them food and shelter and all sorts of things. And they want more. Now they're demanding more. So this is what we were supposed to be filtering at our border, but we're not currently, and it's become a mess. Oh, and then there's also the criminal types that have caused, and not just people who are thieves or whatever, gangs, drug dealers, rapists, murderers, those have come over the border as well. Now, there's no 100% stopping everything, but for quite a while we had a filtering system that was pretty good. Again, you're never going to be 100%, but we had a pretty good filtering system at our border that would stop people. And, I'm sorry, you're guilty of what? No. And back, we would turn them back. Sorry, you can't enter this country. We don't want you here because you've been accused of the following crimes where you came from. So let them deal with you. We have enough of that in our own country. We don't need any more. So I really do find it interesting that the CDC is issuing all of these rules that they want to enforce for dogs. And yet all of the laws, all of the rules that we have in place for human beings, we're not going to enforce. This current president is not enforcing. And we've just had complete open borders. Now, I've told you before, my point of view, I call it libertarian-ish. Not 100% libertarian, more like libertarian-ish. And the reason I put the ish on there is because this is one of the things that I disagree with many of my libertarian friends. They like the idea of just 100% open border. As a free person, you should be able to travel wherever you want, whenever you want. It's none of the government's business whether you cross the border or not. And my answer to that has been, that sounds great until you start looking at the kinds of people who want to cross borders for really bad reasons. And then you realize you're going to want a filtering system. Or, like in the case of these dogs and human beings too, people who have diseases that either we eliminated here in our country or we haven't had before and we're not used to. And if that's the case, again, that's why we have a filtering system. So that's why I've disagreed with many libertarian friends of mine on that issue of an open border. And the Democrats used to be opposed to an open border. For the longest time they were. Even Bill Clinton worked hard to keep the border closed. For the longest time, the Democrats were opposed to an open border, but then at somewhere along the line they changed their mind about it. Whatever caused that, they changed their mind about it. And now they seem to think that this is the way to go, and I don't. This is why I like the idea of those sanctuary cities, like Denver, for example. This is what you asked for, so deal with it now. And don't go blaming states like Texas and other states for this is what you said you wanted. So you can go ahead and deal with it. And I would be in favor also of not bailing them out. No federal money, nothing like that. This is what you said you wanted. You got it now. We've given you everything you said that you wanted to happen. Kind of sucks, doesn't it? Well, you can go ahead and get yourself out of it. All right, coming up on 7:30, so local news is coming away. And after local news, update on your weather forecast. Then you and I get back into it again. 888-97 Woods the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. You can talk about what I'm talking about. You can change the subject. It's all fine by me. It's Friday. I give you open phones every day of the week. Friday is the entire program. 7:45, Don Day is going to explain the weekend weather forecast for you, which is looking nice. These clouds move out if there's somewhere you are. If they're going to be gone later tonight. Weekend starts shaping up to be a lot warmer and a lot nicer. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
This show contains sarcasm that some listeners may find disturbing. A sense of humor is advised. Chat with Glenn live on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
$7:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Now let's see if I found the right one. I had this all ready to go. Then I accidentally, it's online, clicked away from it. Okay, so we're going to go back since we've been dealing with these protesters on campus for quite a while. And I got to say it that way because not all of them are students. Many of them are not. Let's go back to Ronald Reagan sort of laying down the law at Berkeley. And I think this was 1972. That's when I want to say it is. But okay, this was when protests broke out at Berkeley and it got violent. So Ronald Reagan is holding a press conference.
Those people told you for days in advance that if the university sought to go ahead with that construction, they were going to physically destroy the university. Now, why did you
negotiate many times?
Negotiate? What is to negotiate? What is?
The university is a public institution.
That's right. But the university,
its own community, and for the community of Berkeley that live around it.
All of it began the first time some of you who know better and are old enough to know better let young people think that they had the right to choose the laws they would obey as long as they were doing it in the name of social protest.
And then Reagan gets up and walks out of the room. Yeah, okay. In other words, same thing then that we're going through right now. And this is why I said to the University of Wyoming protesters, which there were some, the story that I read said about 20 of them showed up. Okay. And they held up their signs, and they made their statements, and they got their pictures with the press. They said what they had to say. And then they left. And there you go. Now we know what they think. I disagree with them, but they had their say. That's fine. But the moment they got destructive, and it's not just the students, the agitators that showed up, which had nothing to do with the university, at these major universities across America, the moment they started with vandalism, threatening and intimidating people, there was one, I forget which university it was, one janitor that was held hostage for a while. Okay? And it went on with the abuse. At that point, not just no, but hell no. You're out. You're done. You're gone. So when I listened to that from Ronald Reagan, I thought that is a very important, the point that he made at the end was, I think, very important. The whole problem began when you allowed these students to believe that they can pick and choose what laws they were going to obey. And when it comes to civility, no, you can't. You're going to be civil. You're allowed, and many students have been protesting and screaming, we have the right to protest, we have a First Amendment. You do. You have every right in the world to say what you want. But you're not allowed to be violent, you're not allowed to intimidate people, you're not allowed to take a hostage of people, you're not allowed to vandalize, break windows, spray paint things, stuff like that. The moment you do that, you're done. It's over. You're out. So, once again, to the University of Wyoming students that did their protest, again, I don't agree with what you said, but I appreciate that you went out there peacefully, you had your say, and then you were done. And that's the way that worked. And by the way, those people who are protesting violently at these universities, they're not winning people over to their cause. That's how you turn people away from your cause. Now, for those who missed it earlier, Cowboy State Daily picked up on what I was saying earlier this week, that if you go take a look at your trade schools, none of them are protesting anything. None of them are. Because they're too busy learning a trade. They're in class, and many times classes are not even in class. Many times they learn a little bit of something in class, and then, which is a shop, really, and then they go out on site somewhere and work for somebody else, basically as an intern or someone like that. And they learn on-the-job training. And this is going to give them skills, so in the future, they have a degree in something that's actually a skill that will help them achieve and pay their bills and raise their family and so on. And not some useless degree that did nothing but just leave them in a whole lot of debt. All right, we're coming up on the weekend forecast. Where I'm at, it's still really low clouds. I mean, big-time low clouds. That's going to clear out. The weekend is supposed to look really nice with something interesting to see in the night sky, which we're going to talk to Don Day about in just a few minutes.
Over the last few days, there's been large protests over the protection of the local woodland. Today, we're joined by one of the hippie freaks responsible. Larry, have you ever thought about getting a job? No, jobs are for people who work. I understand your organisation is trying to protect natural resources, but my question is, would it really kill you to take a shower? You see, showers take water away from nature, so we try to avoid it. All right, sounds very similar to how the rest of the population tries to avoid you. Oh, yeah, right on. So is there anything you'd like to say to the general public? Fight war with love. Yeah, because as we all know, love is an AK-47's one weakness. Also, you have to remember, trees are people too. You know, it's really strange. I've just got the sudden urge to punch you really hard in the face. Oh no, heavy.
Yep, there you have it. A new level of crazy. And you heard it here. Sure, this show is sustainable. We sequester all gas emissions to one room. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, live on AM 1030 and FM 95.1, weekdays at 6.
7:45 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Don Day from Day Weather. Okay, Don, where I'm at, it's still cloudy and just a little bit drizzly.
Yeah, and it still will be. We are not quite out of the woods yet, but we're in that day that we discussed yesterday, that transition day. So we're going to see the weather get better as the day wears on, but we're holding back, Glenn, because we want the best weather to be over the weekend.
Okay. Now, on that note, tonight it looks like things could clear out overnight, which means we might see something.
Yeah, the trend is looking good, especially for central and northern Wyoming, but I think really the whole state to see clearing as this pesky low finally moves on out. Yeah. Now, some folks may have been hearing about a possible geomagnetic storm tonight. Boy, and I just look at the new forecast of data from space weather folks, and there's a real opportunity that we could very well see the aurora borealis tonight, maybe over all of Wyoming. Now, these are fickle. Sometimes they're overhyped, but this is the strongest geomagnetic storm from 5 different solar flares that have occurred over the last couple of days, and they're headed straight to Earth. So all the right things are in place. Also in the fact that the moon set is going to be fairly early tonight. So between 9 o'clock tonight and sunrise tomorrow, look off to the north and northeast. They're very well could be able to see it. And, there's a difference between the aurora borealis that you see on people with their digital cameras and what you see with your eye. Getting to see them with your eye is a treat. Doesn't happen very often, but it could happen tonight.
Okay. And even then, you're not going to see what you see up in Alaska. We're talking about some color up there, right?
Well, yeah, and you got to remember it's low on the horizon. You want to look real low on the horizon to where they're going to be. But a lot of smartphones now have the ability to do long exposures. And if you've got a digital camera, long exposure, you need to let your eyes adjust. But there's a real chance. We hope it doesn't turn into a dud, but this is a G4. They go to G5, and we haven't had a G4 for quite a while. And a good friend of mine who's an aurora photographer, really knows his stuff, he thinks this could be our best opportunity that we've seen in quite a while, all across the state. So keep your fingers crossed.
Now, this weekend weather forecast, no pressure, but Mom is watching.
Mom is watching, and I'm going to try to make Mom happy, because Mom has not been happy all week.
Yeah.
That is for sure. But things turn around. We're going to be 60s this weekend. Some folks will be touching 70. Now, we're going to have some afternoon showers and thunderstorms, especially on Sunday. They're going to be out there, but they're going to be in the afternoon. They're going to be widely scattered. They shouldn't ruin most outdoor activities if you have any planned, and the warmer weather will continue into early next week. So things are going to be much, much better.
All right. Thank you, Don. Have a good weekend. Don Day from Day Weather. Well, okay, there's your chance to see something maybe if you want to get up that late. Off we go to the icebox. Frank Gambino is waiting by. Frank, I almost had to burn down the building this morning.
Why? Did you make coffee again?
No. I make it every morning.
Well, I know, and you never burn the building down yet?
I never do. No. I went into one of the upstairs bathrooms there, and there was a spider on the toilet lid.
Smash it.
Now, well, here's the thing. I debated I could burn down the building. No. I could go get my gun. That would be justified.
No, you could smash it with your foot.
Instead, what I did was I swept it into the toilet and flushed it. Now,
that's a good one.
Here's the problem with that, Frank. That means anybody who goes to sit on any pot in the building runs the risk of being attacked and murdered if that thing is still alive down there and has mutated with God knows what's down there.
Well, then you should have smashed it with your
shoe. I should have burned down the building.
Why didn't you take care of this issue?
I did. I thought I had, and then I reconsidered my options here. But now I did send a meme to Miss Mary through our little Teams thing that we have here, and it's this tiny little spider. And it asked a question. What if the spider you killed in your home had spent its entire life thinking you were his roommate? Ever think of that? Ooh. What if he thought that you two were buddies, and then next thing you pick up this shoe and you come at him for no good reason? That's murder, Frank.
You needed to put a stop to that when you had a chance.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, that's a wasted opportunity.
The moment the spider showed up, you should have told him, I'm not doing roommates, no.
Yeah, and smash it with your shoe.
Yeah, just go ahead and kill the thing. Maybe have a conversation with him and send him out.
No. Just smash it with your shoe.
Just kill it. Spiders just need to die.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the way I look at it, at least.
Yeah, all right. Well, now we know what Frank thinks about spiders out there.
Yeah.
And what gets me is, maybe you're like this with me. In Florida, we had really big spiders. The tinier they are, the more I'm afraid of them.
And those palmetto bugs.
Oh, my God.
They're big.
Okay, for those who don't know palmetto bugs, picture a really big cockroach.
Yeah.
Okay?
About 2 inches they are.
And it flies.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people will turn to me and say, it's not a cockroach, it's a palmetto bug. Frank, it's a cockroach that flies.
Yes. And
it's a giant cockroach that flies.
It scared the hell out of me. All right. In men's college basketball, Pete Thamel of ESPN reported yesterday that Wyoming Cowboy head coach Jeff Linder is working on a deal to join Texas Tech as an assistant coach. Linder's been the Pokes head coach for the last 4 years, and the last 2 seasons have been utterly forgettable. 15-17 this past season and 9-22 the season before that. that. He did get the Cowboys to the NCAA tournament in 2022, but lately it's been a revolving door with players to and from the transfer portal with mixed results. He did get Graham Ike to come to Laramie, but then he left for Gonzaga. And attendance and interest in the program has been low, as in very low. Texas Tech's head coach is Grant McCaslin. He worked with Linder at the junior college level in Midland, Texas from 2004 to 2006. So maybe Linder wasn't a happy guy in Laramie and figured he had a much better chance to win as an assistant with a Big 12 school. The Red Raiders have made the NCAA tournament 3 of the last 4 seasons, including last year. High school soccer, the 4A regional tournament started yesterday. The winners of the matches yesterday punched their ticket to next week's state tournament. They'll be in Rock Springs and Green River. In the 4A Boys West, the Natrona defeated Star Valley in a shootout 3-2, and Kelly Walsh bombarded Riverton 8-0. So those teams now are playing for seeds at the state tournament. NC will play Jackson today, and Kelly Walsh will take on Rock Springs. And the 4A West girls, that is in Jackson and Star Valley. The Natrona zoomed by Rock Springs 5-0, and Kelly Walsh had a first round bye. So NC plays Kelly Walsh this morning at 10 a.m. In the 4A East Boys Regional in Cheyenne, Cheyenne East beat Laramie in overtime 1-0, and Sheridan defeated Cheyenne South 4-2. So today, Cheyenne Central, who has a first round bye, will play Cheyenne East at 5 o'clock. On the girls' side, Cheyenne East of Sheridan 2-1. Cheyenne South lost to Thunder Basin 1-0, and Cheyenne Central lost to Campbell County 4-3. So Laramie, who got a first round bye, it will play Cheyenne East at 3 p.m. and those regional tournaments will continue tomorrow. Stanley Cup playoffs in hockey, the Colorado Avalanche lost to Dallas last night 5-3, and that second round playoff series is now tied at a game apiece. The Avs were down 4-0 in that game, but did come up with 3 goals in the third period to make it interesting. Game 3 of that series will be in Denver coming up on Saturday, and that's it in sports.
And Frank is going what direction today?
I'm going to try to go to Shoshone today, and then maybe Wheatland tomorrow.
Ooh, nice. Okay.
You know, I think that's and I looked at the forecast, it's 65 to 70 degrees in a lot of places tomorrow. I'm like, why? I'll take it.
Well, here's what's been getting me all week long, because it has been raining all week.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much nonstop. And so my lawn has been growing lush and green.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Looks great, doesn't it?
It really does, but it's really tall now. And I'm thinking, can you pause the rain and give me some sunshine so I can get the mower out there?
Well,
because right now I'm losing this battle.
Let it grow for a little bit longer, you know.
Okay, but I'm going to need a bigger mower.
Yeah, true.
All right, thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we got to take care of. I got to roll into news time after that national local update on the weather forecast. I got a lot to go through, but it is open phones. So you can go ahead and call me, change the subject if you want. 888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. So we got local business, national news, local news update on the weather forecast, and you and I get back into it. Wake up, Wyoming.
Isha.
Time is 8:06. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me Friday. Glad you made it. You had some time. All of this rain and clouds and so on moves out if you still have some over your area. Don Day's keeping us up to date on that. It is Friday, so it is open phones.
Today's show is sponsored by the Ugly Pants Store. Each pair makes you want to sit in wet paint.
And that would make it look a whole lot better. Again, 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Or do what other people are doing. The Wake Up Wyoming app is free to download at your app store. One of the many things you can do with it is there's a chat option. So touch chat and send me text messages while I'm on the air, and I answer them back. All right. First story I got for you this hour. And you can call in and interrupt me and change the subject. That's the point of an open phone segment. So blue state Democrats turn on governor as homeless council can't account for $20 billion. Can you guess the state? Oh, you know what I wish I had here? Jeopardy music for this. Yeah, I mean, if anything, I should have asked that question and then played this. Okay. I need to get Jeopardy music back into my lineup so I can do stuff like that. Well, okay. The answer is, of course...
Come and listen to my story about a man named Jed. A poor mountaineer barely kept his family fed. Then one day he was shooting at some food, and up through the ground came a bubbling crude. Now he's a rich white guy living in Beverly Hills. Liberals, Botox, hypocrites, gun control. Well, the first thing you know, they tax his underwear. Ken folks said, Jed, move away from there. Said, California is the place you need to leave, so they loaded up the truck and they moved to Tennessee. Low taxes, coal mines, and diesel trucks.
Yeah, of course, it's California that we're talking about. So here's this. I'll do this real quick. We'll move on to something else here. Some California Democrats are turning on their leader, Governor Gavin Newsom. He failed to track, and so did they, whether about $20 billion spent on curbing homelessness, where it's gone in the past 5 years or so. So in 5 years, $20 billion was put aside for homelessness, to fight homelessness. The money is gone, and they have no idea where it went. Quote, you come to a budget committee, there's no numbers. According to a Democrat Assembly member, Newsom's housing and homeless officials during Monday's budget committee hearings were asked, how many people have you helped? How many people are off the street? That's $20 billion. What happened? They don't know. California Interagency Council on homelessness. The executive responded, they're dealing with data quality issues. Oh, that's rich. So if the IRS ever decides to audit you, we're dealing with data quality issues. We'll get back to you. So the metrics are not available for more than $20 billion spent since this whole thing was conceived of. We're working expeditiously. Remember, tell that to the IRS. I'll get it to you. I got computer issues, but I'm working expeditiously. So what does that mean? And that's a quote. What does that mean? We spent billions of dollars and you can't tell us how many people you've helped. And I would say the answer is pretty much none, but all right. Megan Kirbley, I think is how you pronounce her name, Deputy Director, California's Department of Housing and Community Development, told lawmakers in the committee that the state didn't previously require them to track the progress of spending. Really? Okay, so the state's hub for coordinating the state's homeless program shifted blame to local cities. Not our fault. Go talk to the locals. Last month, emails responded, inquiries and so on from the press failed to track any money. A senior spokesperson said municipalities are primarily responsible for implementing these programs and collecting the data. So it's their fault, not ours. As the state faces a significant budget deficit, that must be worked out. They have a deadline here. California is ground zero for the most homeless people in the nation, with they estimate about 181,000 people living on the streets. However, does that include all of the people from other countries illegally pouring into California, especially since states like Texas are sealing off their borders? They're going around that and moving into California. Story says in a bombshell report last month, the state auditor found that 9 state agencies have collectively spent about $24 billion in state funding over the past 5 years in administrating at least 30 programs dedicated to tracking the homeless crisis. And the auditor said Newsom's Homeless Council is responsible for coordinating, developing, and evaluating these 9 agencies. So they're blaming now the governor. Over the past 5 years, they didn't track any of this money. In a letter to the governor, the state auditor wrote, the state must do more to assess cost effectiveness. You think? Despite billions spent on homelessness, the story says, and housing programs over these fiscal years, the problem didn't improve. In fact, it got worse. Homelessness jumped more than 53%. So let's think about this, man. So they spend about $20 to $24 billion, and it got about 53% worse. Wow. Now, this goes back to what I was talking to you about earlier this week when I said, I was talking about the high-speed rail program, which is now up to about $100 billion or something like that. And they were bragging. They spent millions, it's like tens of millions, on this really short bridge that would take you about 5 minutes to walk across. And they were really excited they got that bridge done. There aren't any tracks yet connecting the bridge, but the bridge is there. Cost them tens of millions of dollars, and by the time the tracks arrive and the trains arrive, they'll probably have to start fixing the bridge. Because you know what happens if you're in construction at all. If you build something and you just let it stand there with really nobody using it and no one repairing it for a number of years, you know what happens to it, right? So California high-speed rail program, there again, another boondoggle. And somehow Governor Gavin Newsom is really proud of all of the things that his state is achieving, and I would like to know exactly how. But this goes back to what I've said. I can point to California. I can point to your federal government. I can point to our own state. This is one of the many reasons why I say if you want something achieved, you don't turn to government to get it done, because this is what happens. Now, in the private sector, a lot of this would be illegal. Imagine you worked for a company and $20 billion was spent on a project and nobody knows where the money went. What would happen? Who would go to jail over that? If it was a private company and $20 billion disappeared and nobody knows where it went and nothing was achieved, in fact, things got worse, there would be consequences, right? Possibly even legal consequences. But you do this in government, and they just have meetings and shrug their shoulders and then pat themselves on the back for what a great job they're doing. That typical government for you. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.
Woke Radio WOKE. Your donations keep us going, so go borrow some money from Mom and send it our way.
Local and mobile across Wyoming and beyond with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
8:19 is the time. Wake Up Wyoming, and back to the phones we go. 888-97, what's the phone number? That's 888-97-WOODS. Got to let her vent before the weekend. Hey, Jude.
Hey, good morning, Glenn. I was just going to tell you about the Ramp Coda last night with Kyle True speaking to the Coates Road people, the gravel pit.
Okay.
It was sponsored by Liberty's Place for You, and Kyle's presentation was actually reminiscent of what we used to get, like, I don't know, in 10th grade in school, where it was how is this made or how is that done kind of series. And he took us step by step through the process of making gravel and getting boulders and excavation and how many trucks will be going up and down the roads and all of this kind of stuff. It went on for about an hour and a half, and I kind of got drowsy, like I did in school, too, because I was just already, ready for questions and answers from the audience. And anyway, so I kind of took a powder and went outside the room for a little bit. I ran into one of our county commissioners, Jim Milne, and I said, that land use plan I told you, the land revision, was going to bite you in the butt. Here it is. And he looked at me, and it really made me unsettled. He said, well, we've fixed that. And I'm thinking, well, how did you fix that? I haven't seen any notices of a 45-day to adopt what you guys changed 2 years ago illegally, so I'm going to have to look into that. But I think there was over 200 people there, if not more. The gentleman that I wished could have been there was that Bruce Lawson. He was in the mining industry for 41 years. And when he spoke at the SLID board, he said there was no detailed reclamation plan. There was no baseline environmental plan. There was no plan for mining and reclamation detailed plan, and it takes about 1.5 years to complete. And scientists with testings, climatology, hydrology for the water, and all of that stuff. I didn't see where anyone got any of those answered. So to me, it was kind of he was getting his story out, but the people didn't ask the right questions, because what he applied for was what they call a limited mine permit. Remember? And I told you Burger King application is longer and contains more information. But what I just told you, that climatology and hydrology and all of that, that's not included in this limited mining. So they found a way to get around that. I did talk to Mr. Coates for a little bit prior, not the younger one, but the father, and he said that they did hire an attorney, and it's probably going to go that way. And I believe it's probably going to have to go that way, too, because there's just too many things that aren't adding up. When they were showing photographs of what mining looks like, they weren't showing little 15-acre mines. They were showing huge industrial mines. So that's what, to me, made me think, well, that's where they're going to go.
Right.
They're going to get in under this limited mine, and then they're just going to keep expanding.
Well, now, I do know from the homeowners group, I did have the president of that group on his program a while ago, and they sent a letter to the governor, who apparently he's able to do something if he wants to. Haven't heard back from Gordon yet.
Yeah, what was it, 67 pages or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, Carol, no, she gave a good interview, Glenn. She gave you a lot of really good information.
Right.
I'm just giving you my feeling here that something doesn't smell right by the way one of the commissioners, oh, well, we fixed that. Mm-hmm. So it just makes me think that all of this is kind of got an undertone of what's going on here. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I was there when they did the revision on this land use plan, and that was December 20th, 2022, before Hendry left office. And I've said it once, I've said it 4 times to these guys. Even one of the commissioners told the new commission, you have to do this right. And they never did, because like I tell you, me and Rose go to all of these. So if they pulled this off, they did it somewhere where on a consent agenda item or something like that. And that's the road I'm going to go look at and see if they just pulled a shifty behind closed doors.
Right.
So
this winds up for sure. This is going to wind up in court, though. No doubt.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, and that could drag on for quite a while.
Well, yeah, and probably deservingly so. I mean, you get what you pay for, but if you try to skirt the state laws, and, you know, not that I'm accusing Kyle of anything, and, you know, and I like him. I've met him 4 or 5 times. He is an absolute good man, you know, in his heart. But I don't know why this particular section means so much to him. And when they were showing video or photos of this proposed mine, they were miles away from where the mine is. They weren't showing anybody's houses. There's 52 homes up in there. You know?
For those who don't know, and we're talking, folks, about the Casper area, let's get directions to where this is.
Okay, CY Avenue.
Right.
What is it? Tractor Supply, I think, is across the road there. Walmart is up the road there, Walmart West. Mm-hmm. It's back in that area in there. But all the way at the end of Coates Road and Squaw Creek Road.
So if I go from the Walmart and I start heading up the mountain, I'll hit it?
No, if you leave at Walmart and you're going to run like you're going to Alcova.
Okay. Oh, I see. That way.
Okay, and it'll be Coates Road's on the left.
Okay.
And Creek is on the left. And I think Tractor Supply's across the CY medium there.
Okay.
But take a drive up there, Glenn. It's ridiculous what this big fight is about. And I think it's over the water, because the water is really important to these guys. And this gets going, and it's going to mess up their water big time.
Okay.
Not to mention, he said 4 or 5 loads a day. Now, is that a straight trailer or a double trailer like what we run when we were a tanker? Is that just at that rate, you're not going to make any money. So they're going to have more than 4 loads a day coming out of there.
Right.
I know. I run trucks.
Yeah.
If I had to survive on 4 loads, we'd be dead.
Okay.
So,
all right.
anyway,
We'll wait and see.
That's what I saw.
All right. I'm glad you're reporting in on all of this. Again, I'm just waiting for, at some point, all of the lawyers line up, and I think we'll be talking about it for several years before it's settled.
I hope so, and I hope it gives them time to find all the information that they need, because they are a good bunch of people over there, and I just really adored visiting with them last night. So, anyway, have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend. Thank you, Judy. All right, so that's what's happening in the Casper, Wyoming area, and as I told you before, a few years ago, went through the same thing. If you go to Cheyenne, Wyoming, go west of Cheyenne, and there was a gravel pit, and it was the same thing with the neighborhood there. That neighborhood did not win, even though it was essentially the same fight. But now they have the gravel pit there west of Cheyenne, Wyoming. And nobody is against mining. Nobody's against doing this kind of work. But sometimes where people want to do the work can be a bit of a problem. Not just for health, but water rights, property rights, things like that. All of these things have to be considered too. Coming up on some local news coming your way, right after a local news update on the weather forecast. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. You can talk about what I'm talking about, or do what Judy just did. She just interrupted me and changed the subject, and that's fine. So Wake Up Wyoming.
So many opinions, we had to build the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app to hold them all. Free download from AM 1030 K2 Radio.
8:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Friday. 888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. Just like Judy has to vent, Greg over in Laramie needs to vent too. That way it's safe to be around him in Laramie, Wyoming, and you can go outside. Morning, Greg. Hang on. There we go. That button sticks. I'm sorry. Morning, Greg.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not talking to Mark.
Yeah, no, that was funny. I don't know how that happened, but I wish I could have heard the conversation.
Well, it would have been interesting.
Yeah.
I said, hello, Glenn, and I knew his voice right away.
Right, yeah.
So, and I corrected some of the things that he had said on the radio after I hung up the other
I got
day.
you.
So,
all right. Go ahead.
All good. I do want to point out, and what most of people are missing is that Donald Trump, most people will be absolutely correct that Stormy Daniels shouldn't have been brought into this case, with one exception. His lawyer, in the opening statement, brought her up.
Oh.
And so he, the guy who hires the best people, is basically, allowed this testimony to come in, probably so he could complain about it, because he's the Queen's cons man.
Okay.
And he always wants to be on the TV. So, again, Stormy, which, yes, I want to end the week on discussing porn stars.
Yeah, well, that's right.
Gravel.
That's right. Well, I think here's the deal, though. When I take a look at, in this particular case, it's not the one, if I were on your side of the argument, this is not the case I would have brought up for Trump. It's a very weak case. If you want to go after this guy for something, there's other things you can go after him for that would really make an impact. This one, currently, they're losing this not just in court, but in the court of public opinion. It was the wrong case to bring up.
Well, it was a state court, and again, the Supreme Court has that Donald Trump appointed, and especially the judge that Donald Trump appointed down in the Southern District on Florida, the mine Cuban judge, those are all federal, and the SCOTUS have shut those down.
Yeah.
I agree with your premise earlier that people that protest and damage things should go to jail, and those that incited that should go to jail. So Donald Trump should go to jail for January 6th.
Mm-hmm.
And however, his Supreme Court, which makes us look like a kangaroo country, has the kibosh on any of those.
Let me ask you
trials
something,
going.
though, because my listeners are going to demand this of me. What did Donald Trump do on January 6th?
He incited his supporters to go down and
okay, here's what I invite you to do. No. Here's what Greg. Greg, here's what I invite you to do. Go back, and I know this is going to pain you, so I suggest you get some good Wyoming whiskey before you do this, because you're going to have to listen to Donald Trump speak, right? And I know that's going to drive you nuts. And then and go watch in its entirety the speech that Donald Trump gave in front of the Capitol on January 6th. And he said nothing about attacking anything. And in fact, he talked about peacefully letting your voices be heard. He never incited anybody to do anything.
He incited Michigan state electors, Arizona state electors, actually organized.
Okay.
So there were multiple attacks on the peaceful transfer of power. And somehow Republicans are okay with it.
I
and that's
see.
really weird to me.
So I would love to see. I would like you to bring the evidence for that, because nobody has yet. And again, when you go back and listen to his speech,
why is there no evidence being presented?
Well, you need to present evidence in order to have a case, and so far nobody has. You haven't either. Greg, you haven't presented any evidence either. And again, like I said, go get wasted, because you're going to need to. If I want you to listen to Trump, there's no way you can do it without screaming your bloody head off.
I've read
and listen to the whole thing. He never incited anybody to Greg. He never incited anybody to anything.
He's like Bin Laden. Sat over there, he incited it, organized it, arranged it, and should go to jail.
Okay. If that's what you think, you go ahead and believe that, Greg. You go right ahead. So far,
that particular information.
But here's the thing. But let's go back to where we originally were starting with all of this. The case that they have now and the whole Stormy Daniels thing is not the case to bring up. If somebody wants to bring up the case that you're talking about, they should have done that a long time ago, and nobody has.
From the day Garland was in and Monaco was in, Lisa Monaco, the assistant DAG, yes, they have been collecting evidence that Trump basically burned up.
Where's the trial? Where's the trial? Where's the trial?
He stole our secrets.
Nobody has gone to court on this. Where's the trial? Where are the charges?
Because the Miami judge is ending it. Go read about Eileen Cannon.
I see. So you don't have any cake here, do you, Greg? You've got. So in other words, you got nothing, Greg. Okay, you keep working on that. Get back to me on Monday. In the meantime, I want to play something for everybody out there. He brought up Stormy Daniels one more time. Then I'm going to get rid of this. Okay, I'm gonna delete this afterwards. MSNBC describing Stormy Daniels walking into the courtroom.
Well, the excitement and anticipation in the room hit a new high at 10:32 a.m. She entered wearing all black, as if on her way to a funeral.
Yeah.
The loose-fitting, plain black clothing draping from her shoulders to her toes suggested the modesty of a nun.
The porn star.
The makeup was minimal, the way she and the other moms in her neighborhood might look when shopping at the local grocery store.
Oh, sure. She looks just like a mom
hair,
at a grocery store.
Held up with a clip at the back of her head. The way it might be in a utilitarian way she was doing dishes.
When she was doing dishes.
One of the horseshoes
in a porn movie.
Horse.
Yes.
She later spoke of so proudly.
Okay. So that's again. Okay, wait a second. I'm going to go back here. Should I delete that? I'm going to go. I'm going to hang on to that. I was about to delete it, but I thought I might need to play that again. Rhiannon Fort Danger, tell Greg I have diagnosed him with Trump derangement syndrome. Okay. RH in Wiggins, Colorado. Hey, Glenn, yes, Donald Trump's whole speech, not edited, not selectively cut, not out of context. So if you want to listen to that entire speech, Greg, show me where he incited anybody to do anything. In fact, he says, go peacefully protest. He never incited anybody to anything. And again, cases that have been brought up against Donald Trump, for those people like in Colorado, for example, that wanted to have Trump found, well, they wanted to get him off the ballot because of insurrection. And the case that I brought up and was mentioned at the Supreme Court hearing on this is nobody has charged Trump with insurrection. It's never been a charge. And he was never found guilty of it in a court of law. Therefore, you got nothing. Not a thing. Okay? That's why I say to Greg and others like him, if you want to go after Trump, make your case and go. But instead we have this nonsense going on in New York, and Stormy Daniels is on the stand when she has nothing to do with the case in question. All right. This is what the Democrats are bringing up. It's not working, guys. I mean, the more you do this, the more Trump goes up in the polls. This is completely backfiring on you.
Hello. I finished my free trial of adulting. I'm no longer interested. I'd like to cancel my subscription. Is there a manager that I can talk to?
Admit it. You were hoping somebody would say. Listen to Glenn Woods anywhere you roam with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
8:48 is the time. Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to the icebox. Frank Gambino's waiting by. Okay, Frank, I'm going to offer a trigger warning to all of the men out there, including you, when I go ahead and play this. Ready?
You're ready, I'm ready.
Okay, this is a baseball game, professional baseball.
Night. Oh, that got Adam Hammery, and he is down.
Oh, okay. So what happened is...
Did he get hit in the jewels?
Oh, yes. So this guy is the umpire behind the catcher.
Well, yeah. And that would really hurt, yeah.
The catcher got out of the way. The ball bounced off the plate and right up and And every single guy in America watching that.
And they're tiny, like this because he got hit there.
Oh, my Lord, yeah. That was just painful. I just got to ask, I know some people are having breakfast, but I would assume the umps wear cups too.
That's a good question.
I would hope so.
Sometimes, one time that happened to me playing softball, and the guy goes, just hold it and jump up and down.
Uh-huh.
I go, no, that's not going to work.
Well, I think he wanted you to work it back out. But anyway.
It's still not going to work.
No, it's still not going to work. And the thing is, the poor umpire is literally on all fours in a ball. And they never, oh, my God. Now, you got to, okay, when the typical pitcher in Major League throws a baseball, how fast, typically?
90.
Okay.
95 sometimes.
Okay, so bouncing off the plate is not going to help that.
Yeah, you lose a couple of miles an hour, but a direct shot is a direct shot.
Oh, my God. That was really painful. I don't want to do that to everybody first thing in the morning, but there you have it.
You have to send that to me.
Okay, fine. Frank wants to witness this now. Now, I got to ask you, when we take a look at the catcher, I mean, he's very vulnerable, but he's all padded up. But still, those guys get hurt, I would assume, right?
Yeah, and they get nicked, in spots that are not protected. Sometimes the umpire will get hit with the ball, and I think in rare cases they blame the catcher because he's mad at the umpire for not calling balls and strikes correctly, so he'll kind of like let one go, and it just happens to hit him directly,
Oh, God. So maybe then, how much protection do the umpires wear?
They have a big chest protector and shin guards. Obviously, the jewels are exposed.
I would say then maybe if you're in that position, you might want to go ahead and
do something.
Think about that. Yeah. I mean,
you have a future.
There's got to be a little bit more protection for these guys here. And I would say now, as far as the batter is concerned,
nothing except for his helmet.
Oh my God! So that guy gets hit in the shoulder or the ribs.
He's like, it's like a mosquito bite. And then they go back to the locker room like, oh, look at that mark.
God, look at the bruise. Yeah. Wait a second. Now, hang on. There. Wait, let me do it one more time. There we go.
All righty. A men's college basketball, Pete Thamel of ESPN reported yesterday that Wyoming Cowboy head coach Jeff Linder is working on a deal to join Texas Tech as an assistant coach. Linder was the Pokes head coach for the last 4 years, and the last 2 being utterly forgettable, 15-17 this past season and 9-22 the season before that. He did get the Cowboys to the NCAA tournament in 2022, but lately it has been a revolving door with players in and out of the transfer portal with mixed results. He did get Graham Ike to come to Laramie, and he was good, and then he got hurt, and he left for Gonzaga, but attendance and interest in this program is low and very low. Texas Tech's head coach is Grant Caslin, who worked with Linder at the junior college level in Midland, Texas for 3 seasons from 2004 through 2006. So Linder probably wasn't a happy guy in Laramie and figured he had a much chance to win as an assistant with a Big 12 school. The Red Raiders made the NCAA tournament for 3 of the last 4 years, including last season. High school soccer, the 4A regional tournament started yesterday. The winners of yesterday's matches qualify for next week's state tournament in Rock Springs and Green River. 4A boys West, Natrona defeated Star Valley 3-2 in a shootout, and Kelly Walsh bombarded Riverton 8-0. So those teams are now playing for seeds at the state tournament, and NC will play Jackson today. Kelly Walsh will play Rock Springs. 4A West girls, Natrona zoomed by Rock Springs 5-0, and Kelly Walsh had a first round bye, so KW and NC play this morning at 10. In the 4A East boys regional, that is in Cheyenne, Cheyenne East beat Laramie in overtime 1-0. Sheridan defeated Cheyenne South 4-2. So today Central, who got a first round bye, will play Cheyenne East at 5 p.m. On the girls' side, Cheyenne East dipped Sheridan 2-1. Cheyenne South over Thunder Basin 1-0, and Cheyenne Central lost to Campbell County 4-3. Laramie, who got a first round bye, they'll play East at 3 p.m. Stanley Cup playoffs in hockey, the Colorado Avalanche losing to Dallas on the road last night 5-3. That series is now even at 1 game apiece. The Avs were down 4-0 in that game, but they had 3 goals in the third period to make it interesting. They also trailed by 3 goals in the first game of the series and ended up winning that 4-3. And game 3 of the series will be in Denver on Saturday.
So who's got this? The Avalanche?
Yeah, this is gonna be really interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
This may go all 7 again.
But that's what you like.
Yes.
Okay.
I like the intensity.
Yes.
And there's meaning here.
Yes,
real meaning.
Yes. Okay. It matters actually.
Real meaning. Yes.
Okay. So we'll have to say, and Colorado can finally have a winning team.
That
could happen. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Frank. I did send you that, by the way, so you can sit there and laugh at the umpire. Okay. Coming up on some local business that we have to take care of. Poor umpire. And then we're going to get into news time after that. It is open phones. Hello, Montana in Cheyenne. I'm going to read your note as soon as we get into the next hour. And open phones, too. Wake up, Wyoming.
Cap.
Six the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. It is a Friday, and I'm really glad that you made it. 888-97 Woods the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS.
Today's show is sponsored by the Ugly Pants Store. Each pair makes you want to sit in wet paint.
Because it's the only thing that'll make them look better. And I really, every time I see some young lady walking around wearing ripped up jeans as a fashion statement, I'm thinking she's just mimicking, or maybe actually did survive a bear attack, and that's why those jeans are ripped up like that. I'm glad she made it.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
A couple of comments off the Wake Up Wyoming app, and you can text me on the app by hitting the chat option. App is free to download at your app store. WL in Crowhard, morning. He said, we learn from history that we do not learn from history. George Wilhelm Frederick Heigl. Montana in Cheyenne. Hey, Glenn, can you ask Greg, who's from Laramie, if he believes that Maxine Waters, Ted Lieu, John Tester, and numerous other Democrats should be put in jail for inciting violence. And my thought is, when you listen to the words that they have, yes, they have actually incited violence directly with their words when you hear what they say. Those quotes that he's talking about. Boyd is in Greeley. Good morning, Boyd.
Good morning, Glenn. What I was calling about is when you were talking about the illegal aliens coming across with disease.
Yeah.
You know, I was wondering since the start of this thing, how are they going to pass the buck on this?
Yeah.
You know, they're not going to want to, oh, yeah, we let them in, and that's why we got malaria.
Right.
And here this last fall, what I found was I was just browsing the Internet, and I think they've had 4 cases of malaria down in Florida last fall that weren't from people traveling overseas. They hadn't left the state. It just showed up. And they blamed it on climate change.
Oh, of course they did. Yeah. So, well, there's even, and I'm trying to remember which they were. There were a few diseases that we had gotten rid of here in North America that are in California right now.
Yellow fever?
Yes.
You got yellow fever. You've had big measles outbreaks in Chicago in the migrant housing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, so it's like
well,
climate change.
I think, Boyd, you've just answered your own question. Blame climate change.
That's it.
It's about all they have left.
If I've got dandruff, it's
climate change, obviously, yeah.
Out.
Well, you know, in fact, Boyd, as you get older, you get uglier. I'm sorry, but you do, Boyd. And you can blame that on climate change.
There's no doubt.
Yeah, blame it on climate change.
Yeah.
Are you overweight, Boyd?
No,
Nope.
that's one problem I don't have.
Okay, good, because I was going to blame that on climate change, too.
Yeah, well, you know, I did smoke, and, you know, it's got to be climate change making the air thinner that I have a problem.
It has
breathing.
to be, yeah. All right. Blame it all, Boyd.
All right,
I'm with you.
One.
All right, thank you. Cooper is in Gillette. Morning, Cooper.
Hey, good morning, Glenn. How are you today?
Good, sir. What you got?
Hey, I wanted to get your opinion on something. So anyway, last night here at Camplex in Gillette, Governor Gordon was here and gave a speech, and he actually mentioned, he kind of apologized about his comments that he had there in Harvard about trying to be, carbon negative and whatnot. But I know there's been a lot of talk, of guys that maybe aren't totally in agreement of his direction, and maybe he's on his way out. I guess I'm curious if that is the case, is who is up to take his seat that we would look at.
That's okay. That's a good question, because it's not this election. It's the next election cycle that Gordon's done. He's done his 2 terms. And I know of some people who would be interested, but when I asked them directly, so are you going to run or what, they refused to answer. So I can't help you on that, because there's at least 3 people I know, and one of them has run in the past and didn't do half bad. But again, will they run this time around? Nobody is saying anything, and I understand them playing it close to the chest right about now. But damn, aren't we curious?
Yeah, well, that's exactly what it was. All right, well, thank you, sir. Have a good day.
I appreciate it. So think about that for just a minute, folks. Not the whole thing about the governor and all that. The 2 calls that we just had, there's one thing I love about this program. So we had, first off, a caller from down in Greeley, Colorado, and the next caller was from all the way up in Gillette. That's quite a distance, right? That's what I like about this program. It's on multiple radio stations and on the Wake Up Wyoming app, so people can listen on their phone, live or as a podcast later. And I often tell people the reach of this program is from the Montana border down past Denver, because we get calls south of Denver sometimes, and just as wide. That's a huge area. And then there's people outside of the state, even within the state, but also outside of the state, that are listening on the Wake Up Wyoming app. So, yeah, I like the fact that we're connecting so many people here. Myrna's in Cheyenne. Morning.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that as far as what Greg had to say, if they had any evidence that he had actually done all these things that he was saying, they would have already had it out there, because, I mean, they've made up plenty of other stuff that they've shot out there.
Right.
They've taken so many things out of context to put them out there. If they had evidence, they would have already had it in court.
Right.
But they're better at making up evidence than they are at presenting it and actually proving anything.
And I think what they're trying to do is throw as much as they can to do just as much damage. It doesn't matter if they win in court or not. Just do a lot of damage. Unfortunately, it's backfiring because Trump, even though Trump's not on the campaign trail, his numbers keep going up.
Yep. But it's already been proven that the FBI tampered with the documents down in that one, the one case, the Mar-a-Lago thing.
Right. Yeah.
They did some shady things on that.
Well, and I still would like to have some fair play on this. If you're going to go after Trump for documents at Mar-a-Lago that were, again, top secret, okay, go after him for that. Go, if you want to, go for it. At the same time, though, you're going to have to drag our current president in, and let's bring in Hillary, too.
Well, not just Hillary, but Bill.
Bill as well.
Stuffed in his sock drawer, and then you've got Obama with documents in a warehouse somewhere in Illinois.
Sure. So if I just want fair play. If you're going to go after Trump for this, you got it. Go for it. That's actually, if he actually is guilty of it, go for it. But I want everybody else brought in, too. I think that would be fair.
I agree.
All right. Well, thanks for calling. I appreciate it. So that's Myrna in Cheyenne. That's somewhere in the middle. Now, let's see. We got to get a hold of someone from way over in Thermopolis. Someone over in not just Torrington, Lusk, but also let's go into South Dakota and Nebraska. We get calls from there, too. Then we've well-rounded everything. Smalls is in Casper. In response to your ugly pants store commercial, I think you need to do one for Action Pants. As far as I know, that was a real ad. Let me look that up, Smalls. Hang on. By the way, you're killing me, Smalls. I had to say that. Action Pants. Okay. Yep, that's the thing. They still sell them. What are Action Pants? Now, there's several kinds of Action Pants, but the big ones, though, see, there's a couple of different kinds of Action Pants. One of them was Chuck Norris these were Action Jeans. Chuck Norris used to endorse those. For people who were into martial arts, these had extra material in the crotch so they can do a kick. And they came in shorts, too. Then there was another one, Action Pants. A man of action. And they looked like the polyester pants of the 70s. A man of action. I'm reading from the ad here. A man of action needs to wear pants of action. That's what it says here. Sansa belts, the only slacks with the patented action zone. That's what the ad says. Action zone. And, of course, there's a lady just looking at him like, ooh, the action zone. Yes, Smalls, that was actually and I wonder, do they still sell them? I think they do. It looks to me like you can still buy them, although they're not advertising the way they used to. Rich is in Cheyenne. Hello, Rich.
How about Rich in Thermopolis?
Oh, Rich in Thermopolis. She said Cheyenne, and then she changed it on me. Okay. Hello, Rich in Thermopolis.
Oh, that's all
okay,
right.
So now we're way over on the other side of the state. I appreciate that. Before you get into Biden, you have some new little babies up there.
Yeah, we got 6 new ones. We just had 2. It's just like they're coming out in 2s.
Wow.
But right now, they'll kind of stay away from the road where you drive through in the park here. And they'll stay up on the hills. We can tell when they're going to have... They're a month late. Used to have them in April.
Okay. See, Rich is talking about behind, when you go to Thermopolis, you go to the hot springs. Up behind the hot springs, up in the hills there are bison that just roam the grasslands free. And they're having their little babies. So he sent me some pictures.
Yeah, I sent you one from last year because I can't get close enough to them right now. Like I said, they're staying away. If you want to come see them, you can go up behind Star Plunge or at the end by the springs. And there's another road that you can come in off of by the hospital.
All right.
There's 3 ways to get up in here.
Okay.
Hillary's always talking about Trump not leaving the office. And it occurred to me, the way that Biden is right now, I'm just wondering if they wouldn't have to send in the National Guard to get him out of the White House if he loses.
All you have to do is walk in with an ice cream cone and he'll follow you out.
You got a point there.
Hello and welcome to the Mental Health Hotline. If you are obsessive compulsive, press 1 repeatedly. If you are codependent, ask someone to press 2 for you. If you have multiple personalities, press 3, 4, 5, 6. If you are paranoid, we know what you are and what you want.
Well, that image is going to stick with you all. The best talk show host in the state, within his price range. Tune in to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, weekdays at 6.
9:23 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right, 888-97 Woods the phone number. That's 888-97 WOODS. Patiently waiting by is James in Casper. Morning, James.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir.
You have various interesting commercials.
Yes.
About various things.
Yes.
Years ago, and I'm talking in the early 80s, when I was stationed in Chicago, I believe it was WGN, they had a commercial for Heine wine.
Yeah. Yeah. I have heard that one. Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, they had there was like a dozen different variations on that commercial of Heine wine.
Yeah. There was one. Here's what I used to do. This is back in the analog days. It's more difficult with computers, but I used to be able to take commercials, fake commercials, and insert them into the middle of real commercial breaks. So my favorite one was I did probably the most perfect commercial I've ever done in my life, James. It hit all the right bullet points, music and sound effects and different voices. It was just perfect. One problem, there wasn't a product. So I played this on the air for like 2 months, inserted into the middle of a commercial break now and then. 2 months later, 2 months down the road, the station manager walked up to me and said, "What the hell is that?" I said, "Well, it took you long enough to figure it out."
Well, that was the thing with Heine wine.
Yes.
There is no such thing.
No, of course not.
It went on for years.
Yes, yeah. And that's where you get away with things by insinuation, but never by saying it directly.
But I just remember that from...
I'll see if I can look that up.
Some year commercials.
I'll see if I can look it up and maybe play that on the air at some point. All right, thanks for calling, James. I appreciate it. What he's talking about, some other people have mentioned. I'm glad you guys have noticed. So I decided it would be fun to do a daily sponsor. So all I have to do, the Dan lives in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And what I like about the Dan when it comes to things like this is all I have to do is give him an idea. And he runs with it and comes back with a bunch of stuff. He's really good about that. So I gave him a few fake commercial ideas. Today's show is sponsored by. I gave him like 3 ideas, and he came back with like 20. And when I wanted more, I gave him like 3 more, and he came back with like 20 more. So at the beginning of each hour, you hear stuff like this.
Today's show is sponsored by Osculation Rejuvenation. For when that hits the fan.
See? Okay. Here's another one.
Today's show is sponsored by the original cell phone hairbrush. Talk about looking good.
See, that one's just weird. Today's is this one.
Today's show is sponsored by the Ugly Pants Store. Each pair makes you want to sit in wet paint.
Now, some of them I look at and I think, okay, I wasn't sure what you were going for there, Dan. Other stuff is just absolutely hysterical, which is what I like about it. It's sort of a hit or miss thing, and that's just fine by me. And that's part of what I like to toss in now and then, is just something that's a little bit offbeat. I've also been doing things, if you've noticed, going out of certain commercial breaks. You'll now and then hear something that could be totally random, just to kind of keep your attention out there. So let me see, like this one here.
You can't control how good a day you're going to have, but you can control how weird a day everybody else has. Be the weirdest, most confusing, unhinged part of everybody's day.
See what I mean there?
You were hoping somebody would say that.
Let's see. This one, I even forget what it is.
In Washington today, the U.S. Supreme Court handed down a landmark decision. The court reaffirmed the legality of the death penalty on the grounds that it is, quote, totally badass.
Legal experts are already talking about how this clearly marks a trend towards the Roberts Court being less strictly constitutional and more strictly awesome.
One of my favorite ones is the donut accident.
In the last 11 years, 115 people died of weightlifting accidents in a gym. In that same 11 years, only one person died of eating a donut. Make good choices, people.
See what I mean here? So, these are the ones that I'm playing every so often. Oh, wait, one more. You'll love this.
You know how people are using pronouns these days, like she, him, her, them, theirs?
I want you to start using adjectives when you address me, like spectacular, outstanding, phenomenal, audacious.
See? Okay. That's just great stuff. And it keeps you on your toes out there. You never know what's going to happen next. All right, we got some local business to take care of. That's news time. After news time, update on your weather forecast. Then you and I get back into it again. Appreciate all of these. There have been some great calls, so appreciate that. And you can also get a hold of me on the Wake Up Wyoming app. So just download the app at your app store, Wake Up Wyoming. And one of the options is you touch chat. And while I'm on the air, you can send me text messages, and I go ahead and answer back. Just one of the ways we communicate across these great divides that we call out west. Wake Up Wyoming.
Shower. Honestly, he's just happy to be here. Catch Glenn Woods on Wake Up Wyoming. Weekdays at 6 on air, on Alexa, and on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
9:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Back to the phones we go. So Mark in Centennial wants to respond to Greg. Morning, Mark.
Good morning, Glenn. How are you?
Life is good. What you got?
Good. Of course, Greg could recognize my voice. I said, hello, this is Mark. I've been taught how to think, not what to think.
Right.
And Greg went on and on about how his public education was excellent and that we had the same careers and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And so it wasn't that pleasant. And the difference is, I am sure Greg has never passed an exam that has a 19% pass rate. That's the PG in California. I'm sure Greg has never had a regulator call a client and tell that client not to pay him under the threat that if he does pay Mr. Armstrong, he will fine him, and that regulator could fine that client $10,000 a day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm also sure that Greg has never complained about a landfill that leaks vinyl chloride into a blue ribbon trout stream. Yes, that is the Casper landfill. I would love to see Judy go and investigate and understand the dangers caused by that landfill, the cancer plume that is caused by that landfill, and get something done. I've tried and probably worked within the system a little more than I should probably get some more public opinion on it. But I'm sure our careers are significantly different. I'm sure Greg did not do public comment for the EPA on Yucca Mountain. I'm sure Greg has not worked on Rocky Flats or the Rocky Mountain Arsenal or Hanford. I'm sure Greg has never buried plutonium in or high-level, medium-level barrels, drums of nuclear waste in the San Francisco Bay. So I'm sure our careers are significantly different. I want less government. He wants more government. Again, I have been taught how to think, not what to think.
It's a big difference there. All right. So I was wondering when you guys, for those people who don't know, Miss Mary doesn't even know how she did it. She was supposed to send the calls to me. Mark was on one line, Greg was on another, and she accidentally connected those two, and they ended up talking to each other. And I was wondering if it was a pleasant conversation or not, but apparently it really wasn't.
Well, I feel proud that I'm in the same barrel as Trump. He hung up on me, by the way.
Oh, okay.
But if you want to know my opinion on who's going to run for governor, it's interesting. Kurt Myers has said as much that he's going to run for governor.
Okay.
I think Chuck Gray is probably considering it.
I think he is, yeah. Brent Bien will not answer my question.
I think Brett is still in the race.
Yeah.
I think that if Harriet runs for Senate, then Cynthia Loomis drops out because she can't beat Harriet. She knows that. And she runs for governor.
Okay.
So there's at least 4. I think there are others in the works that I would like to see run. I really like Taylor Haynes, and what they have done to him in Albany County is annoying me.
Yeah.
So he matriculates into Wyoming. He lays his head in Colorado, but under case law, he is a Wyoming resident.
Right. Yeah.
He was on the University of Wyoming's. He's been a Wyoming resident for years, and Jackie Gonzalez took him off the voter roll here. So this party in Albany County misses a huge asset. His intellect is high, very good man, morally competent. He's a good guy, and this county could use some of his direction. But because he is off the voter roll, we can't have him as a precinct person, a delegate, all sorts of other things that he would be willing to do to help us win some races.
Yeah.
So it's just annoying. And if I have his number and we talk every so often.
Yeah.
And
I haven't talked to him in a while, and I kind of miss that. I might have to send him a text message and say, hey, next time I'm down there, let's go ahead and meet up, because it's been a while.
Oh, I would love to have coffee with you sometime.
Yeah?
And I'm probably going to have a dinner down here some point, a fundraiser
Okay.
for some of the candidates. And next time you're down, I'd love to buy you dinner. And I would love to get together with Taylor again.
Yep.
And what else I got for you? That's about it
All
this
right.
morning. And
Good
thanks
timing.
for making my week. Thanks for making my weekend bearable after what Greg said about our conversation.
All right.
Because he hung up on me.
Good.
So, yeah.
Hey, that's a badge of
Have a good
honor.
one. Thank you,
okay?
sir.
All right. That's a badge of honor when someone hangs up on you. Like, their trust as a talk show host, I can tell you.
Hello and welcome to the Mental Health Hotline. If you are obsessive compulsive, press 1 repeatedly. If you are codependent, ask someone to press 2 for you. If you have multiple personalities, press 3, 4, 5, 6. If you are paranoid, we know what you are and what you want.
Well, that image is going to stick with you all day. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Make your voice heard at 888-97-WOODS. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
9:48's the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to the icebox. Frank Gambino waiting by. Frank, if I were a judge, you would hear me from time to time turn to the criminal in front of me and say, not only do you suck at crime, but you have bad luck.
Yeah. So why am I seeing you here again?
Yet again.
So
driver barrels through Riverton at 100 miles an hour.
Great.
Bad enough. Crashes into a cop car. I mean, it's bad enough if you crashed into a cop car at 10 miles an hour. Add an extra 0 on that, and now you're in a lot of trouble.
It's either Wyoming has more knuckleheads.
Yes.
Or we haven't been counting before.
I would like to take a look at the knuckleheadage in Wyoming per capita compared to knuckleheadage, let's say, in other states. Colorado. Oh, Florida wins.
Well, yeah, Florida.
Obviously. Okay, so the eluding case of Dalton Enos Turn, 33 this year, rose to felony level, Fremont County District Court Wednesday. The investigation, 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, of course it was. Fremont County Sheriff's deputy patrolling Riverton area So they hear about a guy who's speeding through town. Wind River PD officer tried to pull over the suspect who had been traveling at 77 miles an hour. That's not good enough. You got to do 100.
And through a town it's not that big, really. But
now, I know this is going to be a shock to you, Frank. Okay, are you sitting down? I think you're sitting down, right? He reeked of alcohol.
No.
Yeah, right? I got reportedly noticed the speech was slurred, reeked of alcohol, and a bottle of vodka lay on the floor of the Durango in the front passenger seat.
Well, he was lonely.
Yes. So the affidavit said when the officer was reading his Miranda rights to the man, he said, "I don't give a," and I can't finish the sentence. Yeah. So at that point, okay, listen, dude, you're already in a whole lot of trouble as it is. So as the officer is reading you your rights, you don't say things like that.
Oh, boy. Knucklehead City. All right, in men's college basketball, Pete Thamel of ESPN reported yesterday that Wyoming Cowboy head coach Jeff Linder is working on a deal to join Texas Tech as an assistant coach. Linder was the Pokes head coach for the last 4 years, and the last two being utterly forgettable. 15-17 this past season, and 9-22 the season before that. He did get the Cowboys to the NCAA tournament in 2022, but lately it has been a revolving door with players to and from the transfer portal with mixed results. He did get Graham Ike to come to Laramie and then from Northern Colorado, and then he was hurt and then he left for Gonzaga. But lately, attendance and interest in the program has been low. Texas Tech's head coach is Grant McCaslin and worked with Linder at the junior college level in Midland, Texas from 2004 through 2006. So Linder probably wasn't a happy guy in Laramie and figured he had a much better chance to win as an assistant with the Big 12 school. The Red Raiders have made the NCAA tournament 3 of the last 4 years, including last season. High school soccer, the 4A regional tournament started yesterday. They'll continue today. The winners of yesterday's matches punched their ticket to next week's state tournament in Rock Springs and Green River. In the 4A boys in the West, that's played in Star Valley and in Jackson, Trona beat Star Valley 3-2 in a shootout, and then Kelly Walsh bombarded Riverton 8-0. So the remaining teams are now playing for seeds at the state tournament. NC will play Jackson today, and Kelly Walsh will take on Rock Springs. In the 4A West girls side of that tournament, the Trona zoomed by Rock Springs 5-0, and Kelly Walsh had a first round bye. So NC plays KW this morning at 10. In the 4A East boys regional in Cheyenne, Cheyenne East beat Laramie in overtime 1-0, and Sheridan defeated Cheyenne South 4-2. So today, Cheyenne Central, who had a first round bye, will play Cheyenne East at 5 p.m. On the girls' side, Cheyenne East up Sheridan 2-1. Cheyenne South lost to Thunder Basin, and Cheyenne Central lost to Campbell County. So today, Laramie, who got that first round bye, will play East at 3 p.m. And in the Stanley Cup playoffs in hockey, the Colorado Avalanche losing to the Dallas Stars 5-3 last night. So that series is even at a game apiece. The Avs were down 4-0 in that game, but came up with 3 goals in the third period to make it interesting. And game 3 of that series will be in Denver coming up on Saturday. And that's it in sports.
So everything that Frank just mentioned, if you're wondering, how do I keep up with all of that? There is a place that you can go and monitor all of this, right, Frank?
There is.
Wild Preps.
Right, well, for the high school stuff, yeah.
Yes,
obviously. That's right, yeah. I forgot all about that.
You forgot, you do Wild Prep.
I know,
Frank.
And I forgot about it. And I forgot all about it.
And you can download the app for free.
Yeah, it's free, I remember that part.
Yeah, you remember that. Yeah, so you get plenty of posts if Frank remembers. Yeah. Thank you, Frank. Have a great weekend. Coming up on some local business. Now, Wild Preps is great for you sports fans out there. Give it a try. Coming up on some local business we got to take care of. Then we're going to roll into news time after that. National local update on the weather forecast. And I didn't even get to half of what I wanted to talk. They only give me 4 hours a day. Look, the show becomes a podcast, so you can go back and listen to every show this week if you want for free off your Wake Up Wyoming app.